Hello, everyone. Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, here with you this evening. And I want to talk to you about something that's very important during this time. So, we think about the summer heat. I know that there's been a heat wave crossing the entire country. So, on top of dealing with a pandemic, we're also dealing with record breaking heat. Down here in Florida, this is something that we've just become accustomed to. So, especially during the months of August and September, where it's like 85 degrees even still at midnight. So it's like you never get that cool down. So there's always that heat. But even up north, we recognize that even short exposures to excessive heat and high humidity, which is more common during the summer months, that this can lead to dehydration. And oftentimes people don't recognize the amount of fluid loss that you can experience. And this can be really problematic for a couple of different reasons. Because if we're losing fluid and we're not replenishing that fluid, this can start to create problems in every single system in the entire body. So when we talk about fluid loss, we have to think about how that's actually occurring. So primarily, and I'll use Florida for an example because this is like the number one place where people can experience significant rates of dehydration, heat exhaustion, or even its most extreme form, which is going to be a heat stroke, which can be life threatening. But we know that when we have extensive fluid loss, we're going to have problems in terms of regulating body temperature. We're going to have a hard time in terms of regulating blood pressure. So there's a lot of different factors that can come up when we're having extensive fluid loss. So how is it that this occurs? Well, let's take Florida, for example. Let's just say that the temperature outside is going to be a high of 86 degrees. But then they say it feels like, so everyone's heard of the feels like temperature. So the feels like temperature may be 97 degrees. And we know that this is in part due to that humidity. So the higher humidity, the greater likelihood that we're going to have more extensive fluid loss. I'll use my father for an example. He is a avid walker and he walks generally anywhere from 2 to 5 miles per day. It was maybe 3 years ago where he went out down here in Florida and it was early in May. And he didn't recognize, because the temperature was still right around the same as what it was in April, but he didn't recognize that the humidity had gone up significantly by about 15%. And so he lost much more fluid than he normally would have on his regular walks. Well, he ended up with significant heat exhaustion, and it kind of crept up on him slowly. But it started with kind of just feeling kind of yucky. Then he got a headache. And then he thought, maybe I have a little mild cold. Well, it got to the point where he was really feeling quite rough. So, this is one of those areas where we have to be cognizant about our time spent in the heat, but also paying attention to that humidity level. Because oftentimes we'll go outside and we'll notice that it's hot, and maybe we're not excessively perspiring. We're not out there sweating because maybe we're not running or doing things like that, but we're still losing fluid. And so when that happens, and if we don't stay on top of it, that's when we can get ourselves into a significant backlog in terms of fluid. So, how can we offset this or combat this? Well, most people have heard of electrolytes and the importance of electrolytes, why they matter, because they create cellular balance. I'm not going to get into complete cellular biology right now, but we know that there's different electrolytes, and it's about the influx of those electrolytes going in and out of the cell and kind of work like in synergy with one another. And it's quite an amazing and beautiful thing. So we know we have sodium, we have potassium, magnesium, calcium, and all of these different electrolytes have to move in and out of the cell at the correct time. And if we are lacking some of these key minerals, or hence electrolytes, this is when we can start to have these deficiencies that occur. So, generally speaking, if we have sodium that is being lost and we're not replenishing with the right mineral balance, then we can start to have this extensive problem that occurs within the body. We start having issues with heart rate, with which would be your pulse, with your blood pressure. as I mentioned, temperature regulation. So, things that you can be doing would be making sure that we're getting, number one, adequate fluid. And when I say fluid, I'm not talking about drinking pop or soda, depending upon where in the country you're from. I'm originally from Michigan, so I say pop. But if you are staying hydrated, your hydration has to be healthy hydration. So, what's the number one healthy hydration is water. Well, I understand a lot of people are not big into water. So, one of my bits of advice is use green tea. So, we have our white tea and our green tea tinctures. So, that's the liquid. You can add that in just as kind of a flavor enhancer, but natural. Plus, you're getting the power of those EGCG antioxidants. That's the epigallocatechin gallate. That's very important. It helps to fend off cellular stress, oxidative stress, free radicals. So you're getting, your hydration plus we're getting ample antioxidants. So water, 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 very important when it is hot out. But we also have to remember that even though we are not actively perspiring, we are still losing fluid. So how do we combat that? Well, we re establish those minerals. And we can do that with the utilization of the alkalizer powder. Now, if you go to our website, invitehealth.com, and you check out the alkalizer, this is a wonderful way to maintain that proper pH so we're not becoming too acidic or too alkalinic. So we want to maintain proper pH because that's what our cells like. And this is a combination of magnesium, potassium, and a really neat amino acid known as beta alanine. Now, beta alanine has been studied quite extensively in terms of its benefits for support of skeletal muscle. So, a lot of times we'll see this in the setting of athletic or exercise studies. And there's a reason for that. We know that that beta alanine helps to regulate lactic acid buildup. So, if we get to the point where we are losing too much fluid, our bodies go into a self defense mechanism and we start to release lactic acid, which can throw off all of the pH. So we need to make sure that we get back to that balance. So having beta alanine on board helps to regulate that lactic acid aspect. And then our potassium and our magnesium help in terms of that replenishment. And then obviously the fluid, the water, is where we can help to regain that balance. And it's very easy to use. It's just one simple scoop and you add that in with some water. It's a little fizzy, which makes it nice, and it has a natural lemon taste to it. So it's a really wonderful thing to have, especially during the hot summer months. So I encourage people to definitely consider this. Now, maybe you are extremely active and you're out and you like to take walks in the evening, or maybe you jog or you ride your bike, whatever be the case. Maybe you go to the gym on a regular basis and you want to make sure that you're not getting dehydrated during the summer, then I certainly would incorporate the alkalizer powder into that setting as well. My husband, for example, he has worked in construction outside in the Florida heat for many, many years. And he has experienced, similar to my father, having multiple episodes of heat exhaustion. Very common down here in Florida. Also, kidney stones are common because when people get dehydrated, kidney stones. So the alkalizer also very beneficial when we look at that acid balance and creating more of that alkaline state. So just keep that in mind too. If you're more prone to the development of kidney stones, we always have to make sure that we are cognizant of what our acid levels are in the body. So, but my husband, he has used the alkalizer powder for years. He, wouldn't leave the house in the morning in the summer months in particular without adding that scoop in because it really does help in terms of that hydration and that stabilization at that cellular level. And a lot of times when we're taking a drink of something, we don't think at that cellular level. And certainly if you're doing pop or if you're doing some type of a sugary beverage, that's not doing anything for your cells in a positive sense. So we know that the alkalizer powder, with that combination of magnesium, potassium, and beta alanine, certainly can be beneficial. And remember, magnesium is utilized for over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. So if we're lacking in magnesium, which, by the way, we know that Americans certainly are lacking in magnesium. And it's estimated anywhere from 50 to 75% of Americans are low in magnesium. This can create havoc as well, because if we're low in something and it's required for 300 different processes, well, now we can start to recognize why so many things can go awry. So, and we know that the potassium also, same situation. If we're low in potassium, this is going to start to affect many different systems. So, having a scoop of that alkalizer really can help in terms of that hydration and the restabilization of those electrolytes, especially during these hot months. So, if you've never been down to Florida in the summer, it's quite the experience. You go outside and you automatically get hit with just this heat and this humidity. And I know, just speaking from experience, living in Michigan for so many years, you would have days where it would get really, really miserably hot in the summer, and you would be like, "Oh my gosh, is this ever going to end?" And then I moved to Florida, and I realized it's just a totally different beast down here. In the summer, you just don't get that break. You never get that cool down, which makes it very difficult, but it also makes you more prone to that potential for becoming dehydrated. So keep that in mind. Definitely check out our website, invitehealth.com. Look at the alkalizer powder. Very easy to incorporate. Here's another little tip. If you are going to get the alkalizer powder, is to keep this in your refrigerator. This is just my little tip to you. I find that in terms of humidity, and it's probably because of down here in Florida, it maintains very well in the refrigerator once you open that up. So, so easy, one scoop, you're good to go, especially for anyone who is out there doing exercise. Maybe you're working in the yard, doing things like that. Make sure that you are staying on top of your hydration. Now, I will be back with you guys in a few more days talking about more wonderful nutrients. And so I certainly hope that you tune in then. And until then, enjoy your evening. Thank you so very much.